So think about this for a second. How do you make a digital dollar? I mean, something that actually works like cash. How do you make it unique, something you can't just, copy and paste a million times? It's a really tough problem, and it turns out there are two fascinatingly different ways to solve it, developed more than a decade apart.
Right? I mean, with a real dollar, once you hand it to someone, it's theirs. It's not in your pocket anymore. But a digital dollar? That's just a file. It's just data. So what's to stop me from sending you that file and then sending the exact same file to someone else? How do you stop that?
And there it is. That's what the experts call the double spending problem. And honestly, it's the Mount Everest of creating digital money. If you can't solve this one single issue, your digital cash is basically useless. It's the absolute key to the entire thing.
Okay, so with that big problem laid out, let's rewind the clock. We're going back to the 90s, a time when the very idea of digital cash was this wild, futuristic dream for a bunch of brilliant cryptographers. Yeah, long before anyone had ever heard of Bitcoin, this was the dream. They wanted to create digital money that acted just like the cash in your wallet. Portable, easy to transfer, but most importantly, untraceable and anonymous. The whole point was to spend it and leave absolutely no trail, no digital breadcrumbs.
So who do you think came up with the first really solid plan for this? You might be surprised. It was the NSA. Yep, the National Security Agency. They actually designed a whole system for a centralized, anonymous digital currency. And you'll see, it looked a lot like the banking system we're all familiar with.
It all came from this 1996 paper, and you gotta love the title, How to Make a Mint. In it, these NSA cryptographers laid out a system that revolved around a central digital mint, basically a super powerful bank that would create, manage, and validate every single digital coin. And the process was pretty straightforward. So let's say Alice wants to pay Bob. First, Alice withdraws a digital coin from the bank. Then she just gives that digital coin to Bob. Finally, Bob takes that coin and deposits it right back into his account at, you guessed it, the bank. Everything flows through this one central hub. But wait, if the bank sees everything, how is it anonymous? Well, this is where the genius comes in. They used a cryptographic trick called a blind signature. The best way to think about it is like this. Imagine Alice puts her digital coin inside a special envelope with carbon paper. She gives it to the bank, and the bank signs the outside of the envelope. The signature transfers through to the coin, but the bank never actually sees the coin's unique serial number. So when Bob goes to deposit it, the bank sees the valid signature, but has no way of connecting that specific coin back to Alice's withdrawal. Pretty slick, right? Okay, so how did they solve that big double spending problem we talked about? Well, it was simple but powerful. The bank would keep a giant central database, a master list really, of every single spent coin. So when Bob tries to deposit his coin, the bank just checks the list. If that coin's serial number is already on there, transaction denied, double spend prevented.
But, and this is a big but, there was a compromise. First, you had to completely trust this powerful central bank. And second, that anonymity we talked about, it wasn't absolute. See, the system was designed so that if you tried to double spend, the bank could use its cryptographic keys to break your anonymity and reveal your identity. So your privacy was conditional. It was only guaranteed as long as you played by the rules.
And that central model was pretty much the state of the art for over a decade. Then, in 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto's Whitepaper came along and just blew the whole thing up with one simple, powerful idea. The quote says it all. The main benefits are lost if a trusted third party is still required to prevent double spending. In other words, if you still need a bank, what's the point? This was a total game changer. This new vision from the still mysterious Satoshi was nothing short of radical. It asked the question, is it possible to solve the double spending problem without a central authority? No bank, no mint, no single person or group in control. At all.
So you can really see the two competing visions here, right? On one hand, you have the mint-based model from '96. It's centralized, it's private, and it all hinges on trusting a bank. On the other hand, you have the peer-to-peer model from 2008. Decentralized, public, and its core principle is to replace trust with cold, hard cryptographic proof.
So how in the world do you pull that off? How do you stop double spending without a central referee? The solution was beautifully simple and completely counterintuitive. You make everything public. Instead of hiding transactions, you broadcast them to the entire world. Because if everyone has a copy of the ledger, you simply can't get away with spending the same money twice. Someone will call you out.
Okay, but wait. That raises another huge question. If this ledger is public, who gets to update it? Who writes the next page? And what stops me from just writing in, hey, everyone sent me $1 million? This is where the real magic happens, with an idea called the proof of work chain.
So instead of a bank deciding what's true, the network holds a kind of computational election. This is proof of work. Basically, computers all over the world compete to solve an incredibly difficult math puzzle. The first one to find the solution earns the right to add the next batch of transactions to the ledger. You can think of it as one CPU, one vote. It's a way to reach consensus without a boss.
So here's what that looks like in practice. All the latest transactions that are flying around the network get bundled together into a block. Just picture it like a single page in that global public notebook we were talking about.
Now, this block is then cryptographically sealed. It's given a unique hash, which is like a digital fingerprint. But here's the key. That fingerprint is also mathematically linked to the fingerprint of the block that came right before it.
And that right there is how you get a blockchain. It's literally a chain of blocks, each one cryptographically locked to the last. This creates an unchangeable public record. Once a transaction is in there, it's set in stone. Trying to alter it would mean you'd have to go back and redo all that computational work for that block and every single block that came after it. It's designed to be practically impossible.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's a fundamental shift in how we think about trust. We've moved from a system that requires you to trust a person or an institution to one that asks you to trust math and a decentralized network of computers.
So let's just put them side by side. In the NSA model, your trust is in a central bank. In the Bitcoin model, your trust is in cryptographic proof. In the old model, a private database prevents double spending. In the new one, it's that public, unchangeable blockchain. And for anonymity, the old model was conditional. The bank could always unmask you. The new one uses public keys. They're like anonymous digital addresses. It's not perfect anonymity. It's more like pseudonymity. Your real-world identity is separate from your public key.
But you might be wondering, why would anyone dedicate all this computing power to validating transactions? Well, there's a powerful incentive. The node that successfully adds a new block gets rewarded with brand new coins. Satoshi compared it to gold miners expending resources to find gold. It makes it way more profitable to be an honest participant and help secure the network than it is to try and attack it.
And this is what makes the whole system so secure. If an attacker wanted to go back and change a single transaction, they wouldn't just have to redo the proof of work for that one block. They'd have to redo it for that block and every single block that has been added since. They'd have to outcompute the entire honest network, which is a monumental, almost impossible task. So there you have it, two completely different visions for digital cash. One is built on trust and a central authority. The other is built on cryptographic proof. You could say the first era of the internet was built on trust. This next era might just be built on proof. And that makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we can solve the problem of money this way, what other problems that rely on trust are we going to solve next?